Okay, I'd like to call the Fire District Board special meeting of May 6th to order. I guess we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have the roll call, please?
Sure. Aldrich.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Beck.
Here.
Burblank.
Here.
Meridian.
Here.
And then Phelps and Miller are after with notice.
Yes. Okay, please turn off your cell phones. Put them away. We got to talk about important stuff. We have approval of the agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda of May 6th.
I have a motion to approve the agenda of May 6th and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? There you go. All right. Public comment on agenda items only. Anybody want to say anything? All right. New business. We have this Ram truck problem, so let's start with that.
Basically what happens, we have a discrepancy in the delivery price of the truck, where Wayland Chrysler was trying to do us a favor by getting the truck order in because it was a change of model years. And there was a verbal agreement on it, and there was a PO issued. When the truck was delivered, the price had changed substantially more. After some negotiations, it got lowered one more time. We did not want to misrepresent the board. It was payable for X amount of dollars, and it costs more. We thought best to bring it back to the board to explain to you what had happened and to see if you would allow us to continue with the truck that we ordered, or if we have to start all over again, we would, results of about $191 difference, and be 3 to 6 months. The last truck we ordered was 8 months. It got lost. So I'm sorry it happened, and we'll make sure it doesn't happen again. It did happen, and we spent a lot of time negotiating. Got an extra $500 off, but we're still, it's more money. The trucks came in more money. They didn't have their full pricing structure in place.
Well, we ordered an 18 truck and they couldn't get 18 trucks, and so we had to get a 19
So
truck.
we're getting a 19 instead, so.
That's 1 year of depreciation to the good.
To the good.
So I guess it's up to the board to decide whether they want to go ahead and take this truck from Wayland Chrysler, or if you want to start the process over, we can get a truck for, it's $191 cheaper, and wait 6 months for it. So.
I think we should probably get the one that's
That's here.
Sure.
One in the hand,
That's my opinion.
one in the hand worth two in the bush or whatever.
So wherever it went.
Yeah.
I think it just makes sense to go ahead.
Pretty sure
You've been
it
waiting a while
is.
anyhow.
Sitting on their lot and not in Tijuana.
I knew you were going to ask that. We have a lock on the hub, and it's chained to the building. We put Saugatuck Fire with never mind.
With lipstick across the window?
No, I use an engraver.
So anyway,
We have a sample motion if it's something,
I would entertain a motion.
and it's at the bottom.
I'll make a motion to authorize the fire district staff to add an additional $3,000 to the purchase of the 2019 truck from Wayland Chrysler, including the reading aluminum service body, lighting, lettering, etc., not to exceed $83,000.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion by Beckman and a second by Christensen to...
Aldrich.
Aldrich? Wow, where am I?
1973.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, it is. You have gotten married since the last time.
Gee, it's been a minute.
Second by Christensen. I really had a day of it, I'll have you know, so. Is there any other discussion? Although, I guess you have to do a roll call vote.
Well, the other discussion is maybe the board could write a letter to Wayland and tell them that we are disappointed in this. We did make the approval, but, you know, this is the second truck we've purchased from them in the last 3 years.
I'm pretty sure this is the last truck we've
Yeah,
purchased.
well, that's why I think I'll kill them with kindness. Sometimes they might come back and make a donation or something.
We did invite them tonight to appear before you, to tell them, you directly what had happened, and it was declined.
Craig, was this the dealership that's been sold since?
Yeah.
So it's been, the
It was-
dealership's been
okay.
sold?
It was Wayland Chrysler, and now K&M Wayland or K&M bought it out of Grand Rapids, and now it's K&M Wayland.
That's correct.
So, yes,
So we're talking about two different people too.
yeah.
Same salesperson, but two different ownerships, yeah. And of course, you hear every excuse in the book for why they can't do something.
Unfortunate, I don't think there is a lot of leverage.
Not really.
According to them, there
I mean,
isn't.
there would be if they were closer and you could embarrass them into community service kind of, but they don't care.
I think
Right,
from
Dan.
now on, we should deal with the My Deal part of the whole
Okay.
thing and not order outside of that.
We've changed the process already,
At least we're getting a 19 early in the,
yeah.
somewhat early in the
Like Dan
cycle.
says, it's
Yeah.
it's newer, it's a new year, and
So, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Beckman?
Yes.
Aldrich?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Verplank?
Yes.
And Meridian?
Yes.
thank you.
Almost all these fifty.
I know, now it's gonna stick.
Sorry, I really had a day, I'm sorry. Okay, next, budget and staffing discussion.
So, we went through the budget, Peter, Chris Mantles and I and Jane had a meeting 2 weeks ago on a Friday. We went in and, following up on our capital improvement plan, and we did one change this year. And the change had an implication on the budget. And the change that we've wanted to do for quite some time is a paid on-call stipend. So when a person gives up their evening from 4:30 p.m. till 6 a.m. the next morning, they get a modest stipend for their time. That's every night, and then a 12-hour shift on Saturday, 12-hour shift Saturday night, and then same thing on Sunday. That's about $110,000 to fund that stipend. Please keep in mind some important things. It's less than $5 an hour. Not everyone takes a truck home. There's only two vehicles that go home. So another thing to keep in mind is a lot of our first responders are using their own vehicle. It's their own gas, it's their wear and tear, everything. So they might get $23, but after taxes, and the average call is 12 miles, 6 in, 6 out, back. So you've got some costs that are absorbed by the first responders, just for the record. Most of our calls are medical. They aren't allowed to take POVs, private vehicles to fires, they come here. So most of our call impact are medical. So to try to appreciate people's time, value people's time, and pay what we felt was modest, we came up with a stipend. We've been talking about this for years. So that's where we came with the $110,000 situation. So we come down to the budget, and chime in here, Peter, if you remember something, Chris, and we're $78,000 short. I don't think, this isn't like once a quarter or once a month, this is every week these people are doing it. So, you guys all know we're a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week business. We don't have the pool of candidates to choose from. That's one reason for the heavier staffing levels in Saugatuck Fire versus, say, somewhere else. Number one, we have more calls. Number two, We all know, you've heard me say it, it's challenging to live within this area. And that's what we're fighting. We're fighting for family time, private time, church time, and there's a different cultural nowadays on volunteerism. It's different. So when you have this, we take it for granted somebody's always gonna come around the clock. My vision is, I think we should respect these people's time, and they would get a $50 stipend for $12. It's basically what we're talking about. So that is, one of the issues. So, Peter, do you have anything you had these columns on here?
Well, I had
Or you
these
want me-
columns, that's, if you look in the far right-hand columns, the $115,000 with Greg's talk is the volunteer stipend. That's new for this 2020 budget. The other large increase, I don't know if you want to talk about adding the other another full-time, somebody else full-time, that would be another $45,000 wages.
Mhm. And I was gonna get to that
Okay,
justification.
yeah, you can get to that and so the stuff in yellow, the 4 columns, it's all wage driven. It's the volunteer stipend, it's basically about a $45,000 increase in another full-time position, and then the fire calls are way up again this year, or this current budget year. Right now I just did the payroll for April, and they're up, so as the end of March, they're at 45,000, so if you go out to the rest of the year, it's gonna be about 60,000. So the fire calls are gonna be a drastic increase, and then when you get to wages, that makes more increase on workers' comp insurance, more increase in the payroll taxes. So if you go through the rest of this budget, most of those items are pretty well flat, or there's a small increase in some of the other the majority of the line items. It's all wage driven, the increase. And at 2 mills, at 2 mills, which we've been at for the last 4 years, with the volunteer stipend, the new employee is $131,000 short. To get that to balance, you would need an increase of 2.2 mills to add the stipend and the new full-time individual.
An increase of .2 though.
.2.
To bring it up to 2.2.
To bring it up to 2.2.
2/10 of a mil.
Yeah.
Each tenth is 65K.
In the whole district, a 1/10 of a mil increase, it equates to $65,000 in taxes across the whole district. So I don't know if Greg wants to know that.
So, here's my reason for asking for 2/10 of a mil, which is on a $400,000 house, $200,000 taxable value adds about $40 on your tax bill. If you're like me, I wanna know, what is this gonna cost me? Okay, the last millage we went with 4 years ago was $20 on the tax bill. This would be $40 if you had a $400,000 house, which we thought was pretty average around here.
I know, that is the average, because I did it for the school district, and the average home in the Saugatuck School District is just north of $400,000 of market value today.
Interesting, I paid 110 for my house 24 years ago.
You're a rich man.
Oh, I know.
I won't even tell you what I paid.
I'm gonna turn on my salary.
You were in
I can
different
tell you what I
states.
paid.
So the biggest problem that we're experiencing, and I've been watching this for a couple of years, is you almost have taken one person out for rentals. Rentals have changed the impact of what we do. There's so many rentals. When the 3-year cycle comes up, we'll get 15, 17 applications sent in a day. So essentially, all that's occurring for Chris Manels is he's doing rental inspections. He's the inspector, there's no assembly occupancy, business occupancy, mercantile occupancy inspections, because all the time is spent on scheduling and rentals. So that's a problem. Pre-plans aren't being done as well. So that's what we're struggling with, where he'll come in Tuesday did 17 in one day. Between trying to process that in one day is difficult. We can't keep up with the rentals. And that's one of the reasons that we're reaching out and saying, we need to have more people here. Because we can't get pre-plans done, which have to be done, and the other business inspections. And plan reviews are another element. let me draw kind of a comparison. We're feeling the residual effect of all the construction. I heard it again from a trustee this morning. I went to a meeting last week in the township. They're even closing their office down on a Wednesday because of the walk-in traffic that's occurring. They're still working it, but they have to close it because there's so many people coming in over construction. We know that, because we're feeling it too, because we have to do the plan reviews on that. And you run into some of these projects where you're doing 5, 6, and 7 plan reviews for 7 months, and it becomes an issue.
What do we charge for
I was just gonna
inspections?
say the same thing.
For rentals?
I don't care.
Yeah.
Plan reviews and also.
So when the whole issue came up with the township, where we were attacked on, we were getting collections for fees, and then they were getting collection for fees, people forgot we were the fire district. We're allowed by law to charge those fees. We decided, let's just hold off on the fees. All we charge for rentals, they're $250 for rental. We get $75, the municipality gets $175. We schedule, we drive, we inspect, we come back.
Why would it not be
The other way
prudent to
around?
jump that number, to just jump the number? I
My
mean,
well-
Because, the reason I ask
Yeah.
is because if we have to go, I'm looking at it from, if we have to go for additional millage, then the roof's gonna fall in on, how come, why, what have you cut, how close to the bone are you on this, that, and every other thing under the sun? And I think you wanna, when that and it's gonna happen anyway, but when that happens, I think you wanna be in a position to say, in this particular case, we've already taken all of these actions, and in this particular case, it might be, I don't care, triple the damn thing. I don't care.
I have
What do
a
care?
suggestion for that.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Why should the taxpayers, why should it essentially move over onto the taxpayers?
Peter brought that up years ago. Why are the taxpayers funding the rentals?
Exactly.
When we started doing the rentals, I was here.
They didn't get paid, John Bach did it for nothing.
Right, we did 72 the first year, we did nothing. We charged nothing. Then it went to $30.
Yeah.
Then we reassessed it we assessed it after a couple of years ago, it's costing us more than that. Then it went up to $50. Then what happened was, years ago, when the township was the last one to incorporate the rental ordinance. So we had a fee-based. The township decided they wanted to change the fee, understandably, they made it $250. Then we had to go around to Douglas and Saugatuck saying, we really should all have the same fees. They wanted $175, and we go, but we're the ones doing
Anything.
driving there, you're processing it, that's what we're gonna get. So, then we had to go to Saugatuck and Douglas and change it. Personally, my opinion is, I think it should be reversed. They should get $75, and we should get $175.
Well, why do we care what the cities or the township gets at all? Let them, they wanna charge $500,
Yeah.
that's fine. We're charging $1,000.
Charge.
Well, I think.
Or whatever the number is. I mean, I don't think it's on the fire district to try and make it rational for the 3 municipalities if they're gonna have their own different agendas and different priorities, which is understandable, whatever, but from our perspective, shouldn't it be a number?
We actually justified those fees on how much time was spent. What it didn't account for, and this I had just ironed out with Chris, he was making as many as 5 phone calls trying to schedule this. I said, you're allowed 2 phone calls and 1 email. After that, it goes right back to the jurisdiction. We will no longer, we have inspections he did 2 weeks ago that were from 2017, because the agent said, not doing them all winter.
I think from the taxpayer's perspective, they would expect, I would expect as a taxpayer, that you're not shifting 1 nickel of that onto the shoulders of all the taxpayers. And indeed, why the hell not make money on it? What's the problem with that? We've got budget issues, and if I'm a taxpayer, I'm going, wait a minute, if you could, you can make X% of the budget issue go away by charging that's one way to do it. There are other ways, other things you're gonna wanna look at too, but for sure you're gonna wanna look at where you're charging money and why not.
Well, we sure as hell shouldn't be losing any money, and it sounds like we are.
I think there's some ads that you can't make money on this, but you can charge what it costs,
Accessible costs.
yeah.
Right, and if we're not getting that, then we need to
Then we need.
figure out what that number is, and go to the municipalities and say, we don't care what you charge, but this is what we need to do these inspections,
Right.
because we are losing money right now.
Do you have to do them over every year, or is it a
Every 3
one-time?
years.
3 year cycle.
Every 3 years, okay.
But there's such a rotation, you know, when I started out, like I say, 2010, there was 72. We have maybe 250, 300 unregistered. We've got probably 550.
But everyone sells a house now, someone buys it up
Yeah,
and it turns into
yeah.
a rental.
People just buy it.
Everything's rental.
About the
It
rentals.
really is.
Well,
Do you do enough of them to pay for the 45,000 for the another
No.
full-timer? No, you just want a
No.
part-timer with, if we raise these rates, or? do
Like
you
here,
like
this
that?
is a fee structure we came up with, you know, at $35 an hour, application paperwork, email scheduling, 15 minutes, inspection software creation, 15 minutes, drive to inspection site, 5 to 15 minutes, initial inspection, 15 to 30 minutes. This is how we came up with this initial fee of $75. We have a $10 truck fee in there. So that's how we came up with it. And there's a reinspection fee justification. That's how that worked out. The problem we have now is the scheduling. I'm sorry. We just have, that's what's taken up. All day Friday, Chris will be trying to do inspections. Well, he's only 4 days a week because he's 410s. So that leaves 3 days. And he's sitting right here, so then we thought of having somebody else do the scheduling. That didn't work because it depends on everyone else. Plus you're tying up John on that. So, and when I inspected them before, I always did my own scheduling.
So this is from 16, right?
Yep.
It strikes me that the pencil's too sharp on this. You know, you got it broken into 15 minutes, and some of these things are in the township, hell, there's places in the township you can't get to for, you know.
well, this was based on not as many seasonal rentals as well. Now, 70% of Saugatuck is either second homes or seasonal rentals. 65% of Douglas is. 50% of the township is. So that's a lot of seasonal rentals out there, and we probably aren't even getting to all of them because they don't report them.
I'm wondering why,
So-
for example, you got all, I mean, this is, I get this approach, which is wires and players kind of approach, but what if you said it's 50% of it, I mean, we're gonna fund 50, it takes 50% of a person's time.
Right.
I mean, maybe it's
Mhm.
multiple people, but that's easy for people to understand.
Right.
Or it's 100%, and, you know, it's 100%, then you go for 100%, that's your 45 grand, you're there.
Yeah, but it's not only the 45 salary, it's the workman's comp, it's the insurance, it all adds up to a bigger number than $45,000.
No, yeah, 45 is just the wage, it's probably
That's-
65 to, it's 70
But I'm
grand.
saying, just stay on one thing though, to me, it's, if we're on this fee thing,
Yeah.
that you justify that, rather than all the 15 minutes of this or 10 minutes entering a computer program, you just simply say, this is, pick a number, 75% of a full-time person's
Sure.
salary. I don't know what the percentage is, and I don't much care. I mean, if it's 100%, it's 100%, or if it's two people, it's two people. But that way you can at least, when you face to taxpayers, say, look, we funded. That's why this fee is this number, because it takes a person.
When's the last time you guys had your car worked on, or
Oh, God.
or a boat worked on?
Oh, God.
And this hourly fee is a joke.
Mhm.
You can get your boat worked on, it's $85 an hour.
We always try to be low impact and, you
Well,
know,
maybe, Greg, that's part of our issue with some of this stuff. We're always the lower end of everything, and now we're struggling
right.
because we need people.
Yeah, because 2.2 doesn't even do it.
Right.
If you take Dan's method and divide $60,000 salary plus benefits by the 593 rentals we know of, it comes out to like $101.18. So that would be the other way of doing it, that you charge $100 instead of 75, I guess.
Now, do we
And-
charge, excuse me, the plan review, because I haven't seen anybody to bill that, I mean, that's kind of a...
That was stopped, because of this situation. We stopped doing fees for driveways, because most of the driveways were pulled out of our hands, taken over to the township. When Natalie came on board, then we were doing them, and then when Al took over, we were doing them, helping them, and we were just doing it as a working together situation. But like, for example, Bosgroff's plan reviews, which were on 6/1, I worked on it Friday and Saturday morning. Again, just the dry hydrant, to test the dry hydrants last Friday, cost you $3,000. Just that alone. And that was a problem. We weren't charging, we stopped when we were getting attacked on the fees, even though we were allowed to, we suspended all that. And usually,
It's costing us a lot more money not to have that development being built and being houses and getting the tax base there.
And see, what we've done in the past, you know, like, on the, in 2016, we had $8,600 we had for inspections and plan review fees. 17, it was 13,000, it was 10 grand in 18, and currently we're at 5,700, which we just billed out a bunch of them, so we might be at 8 grand for this year, so we're a long ways away.
We're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
So it was always trying to be low impact, but the political climate was such that we didn't want to take any more beating up over charging fees, you know.
We were
Yeah.
attacked by a money grab of cost recovery,
Yeah.
which was total bullshit, and
Yeah.
that's for the record.
Right.
So, I mean, come on.
I really feel.
We didn't do that, and
No.
every cost recovery was looked at closely. I don't ever feel like you guys took advantage of any cost recovery.
Normally, we can do a plan review, you know, if we see something where it's clearly doesn't follow the fire code, we send it back and say, hey, you need to follow the fire code. Normally, you can get something done in an hour and a half, you know. The problem with this, with some of them, everything has to go to the attorney because every I has to be dotted and every T crossed, and it ends up costing more. That's not a typical example. Usually we can get through plan reviews, particularly with a program, pretty quickly. And there's more sprinkler systems, more fire alarms. You know, how many times do they build a library? The fire alarm plans just came across for the library. The library's $4.5 million. Pretty big system. So no one, you know, we can normally get those punched out pretty fast. It's when you're working on plan reviews for 3, 4, 5, 6 times that it gets to be a burden, in my view, on the taxpayer.
Let me ask you, has there ever been a precedent or any other kind of jurisdiction that might have outsourced this entirely, got it the hell?
There are some, like, some of the areas, like, hired other fire department plan reviewers to do it. I think Cascade was one of them that hired somebody else. Just think of some of the jurisdictions that don't even have fire departments. We're trained, we're certified, we figure we should be doing that. It should be in our hands. The mechanical people issue the permits, they're entitled to do it. So we didn't want to have all these layer of fees, particularly if we could bang it out in an hour and a half.
I understand having a rental inspection fee to a point where every inspection you do has got to be different.
All right.
So my feeling is, understand you want one fee, but sometimes you're probably losing money on.
I think it's a wash in the end, because some of them you can, like that thing says, you can be in and out in 15 minutes because it's an agent we work with regularly
Okay.
who understands the process and does it right the first try. The ones that take longer are truthfully the owner rental agent type people that come from Chicago, they don't read the checklist, they don't have smoke alarms or fire extinguishers, and it takes, 45 minutes of education of where they are wrong and have to fix it, but then they're also paying for the re-inspection fee. So I think in the end, it probably is a wash, that I don't think you're ever making money, but your time is less involved, and others, your time is more involved, but.
Depends on the agent.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it depends on the.
And I think it definitely, for me, it's beneficial for most of the agents where I can schedule 12 or 15 inspections with the same agent and go from door to door to door to door and bang them out, versus trying to call John from Chicago and Jim from Detroit and everybody else to line up calendars and get people here.
And I can share this with you, that there's even some cities that are approached to say, with these $250 fees are too high.
Yep.
And I don't understand that. They want the fees reduced, nobody wants to give up anything, and we're like, gosh, I call a girl to fix my dryer, it's $90 to get to the house.
Right.
And I'm like, okay.
And you're not gonna make any money from
Yeah, but
it.
the other thing is, like in the city of Holland, if you have a rental house, annual rental, a guy pays, $500 a month, whatever, understand that. But now you come into a city like Saugatuck or Township, my in-laws rent a place out on Lake Michigan for $10,000 a week. I mean, they can afford to have a rental.
That's the way we feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way.
I mean, it's totally night and day to a $500 a year, or a month rental versus $10,000 a week.
And we went from $75 to $250 for the rental fee, and most of the people go, oh, okay, whatever.
You're always gonna have some.
I had one screaming at me, was it last Thursday or Friday, that I violated their fire pit was like 6 feet off the wall of the house, they have to be 25 feet. And she claims that she's gonna lose her house to foreclosure because we're making her move the fire pit, and that it's gonna cost her rental income for the summer, because that's a listed amenity for the house, and, I mean, on and on and on. So there may be some, like you said, that do make money, and there may be others that it is truly just barely covering the fees of their mortgage. And that was obviously her frustrated claims, but I don't know, I don't see the finance of these people's houses, nor do I care to, but there are probably both sides of the spectrum, depending on where people are at in the communities, so.
Now, what happens with this, Greg, and the state, it's back to the state legislators, and it's in committee, and House
Good
bill
news on that.
is not.
House Bill 4246
Yeah, that-
was to take the local control,
There'd be no control, basically.
local control out of our hands, the municipalities, not mine, out of the hands of the municipalities where they couldn't regulate it. And the opposition, those in favor of local legislating, made a real statement last week and made advancements, and they stopped the House bill. It's got to be rewritten. So the opposition did stand up, they listened, and they said, we're not changing this right now. So you do have local control. That was a big thing, 2 years we've been working on that? And it's the realtors funding it. They want to sell more houses for rentals, so.
If you switched it to the cities don't get as much and we get more, are we just gonna get a lot of political pushback then from the cities losing revenue, or?
Or do we just raise the price altogether?
Yeah, or a combination maybe, something like that, but.
The House bill was revised somewhat to still foster some regulations if you have those by ordinance, but basically, it seemed to stem from some municipalities that want to limit the density of rentals, because it clearly changes the flavor of the neighborhood. And that was a real big thing, and no one really seems to have the answer for that. But originally, when we were brought into it, it was, we might lose that whole oversight, and you wouldn't believe the stuff we see, people sleeping in basements, people sleeping in closets. Chris had one the other day with a cord that was going through between a pocket door, and the insulation was off the wiring. It's all photographed. Really, it's on my desk. So,
I think Eric's point is a good one, at least to think about from a perspective of these people paying these fees. That $85 an hour
yeah.
for working on your boat in Chicago, since you're talking about Chicago and Detroit, you can double that number. I mean, seriously, I've been in car dealerships in Chicago where a big sign on the wall says $150 an hour. Audis, BMWs, whatever, $150 an hour, that's what you're gonna pay. So,
You're right.
I think it's possible, without being crazy, to justify a significant bump up. And I know you're not, I get that they don't want you to be making money at it, but if we approach the accounting to justify that with a very open-minded look at accounting and looking at people's time and benefits and gas costs and all the rest of it, when you want that number to go up, believe me, you can make that number, we all know, make that number go up. And jump it up. Because I also think that, in one way, that also has the additional positive effect of communicating to the community
Damn,
that
it shows what it costs.
we're trying, you know, we're up against it here, and we're not immediately turning to you for it. We may end up turning to you, but we're gonna turn over every stone we can before we, you know, before we come hat in hand.
It's kind of like when in my B&B, somebody does some damage to something, and they'll say, well, did you charge a person for it? And I say, no, that's the cost of doing business. And, you know, that's really sad about that lady's fire pit, but
Yeah.
that's the cost of doing business. If you're gonna do business, then you have to pay for it, or don't do business. I mean, that might sound really cold, but that's what it costs. And you can't do something on my back for your business. You
And
have to pay
especially
for your
because it's
business.
become big business. These
Yeah.
aren't,
No, they're
this
not.
is not little mom and pop
Yeah,
next
yeah.
door. These are people buying these things up like crazy.
Trust me, if the rental inspections go up, and they have to pay it every 3 years, then the rent will go up and they'll recoup their money. That's the
Right.
cost of doing
Doing
good
business.
business.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna pay for it anyway.
Right.
Yes. And
The
their-
consumer is.
The weight of it goes where it belongs, which is not on the taxpayer.
And it's becoming much more competitive, but that's the cost of doing business as well.
Right.
So you can't not raise the prices.
But I think we need to do our due diligence, and, you know, $35 an hour, I think, is not enough, to even put that on there. Grandfather always said, don't ask for a raise unless you deserve it. Well, we deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's do what we need to do to get this where it's supposed to be and move forward and go have a discussion with the township and all the municipalities, basically saying, hey, we need to do something.
You can leave your price at $175, but ours has to come up to $125.
Yes.
So this, instead of costing whatever it costs
That's
now, it
what-
costs,
You either raise it or we take a bigger chunk of it.
Like Dan says, what they do with their fee is their business, but
Right.
we need to have more piece of the pie than what.
And honestly, to be transparent, they ought to be reflecting it as the fire department's fee
Yeah.
and the township or the city's fee.
Yeah,
Not, there's some divine right that it's $200 or whatever, that everything has to end in zeros and all that nonsense. No, this is what the fire department has costed it out at X number. And if they wanna add, you know, if they wanna add 50, that's fine. They wanna add 350, that's fine too, who cares?
but I don't think 125 is unreasonable. I think when you
I think
start
you're still way
charging,
low, to be honest with you.
when
I'd double
you
it.
start charging just enough, that's when you get into big trouble.
That's
You
what I
need
said.
to have a
Honestly, I think that's
little
what you're
more.
doing at 125.
I don't know.
Because cities are getting too much.
Yeah, I think so.
They
We're
should
doing-
be down to
Yeah,
$75.
what are they
So why
actually
should we-
doing for that money?
They didn't do
It's
anything
paperwork.
but register
It's
it,
paperwork.
so
Moving
that's the
paperwork.
problem.
Making a phone call.
And I agree with you.
I don't wanna
think
see
you're
it
right.
go so high that I think there are some onesie-twosie people who rent their homes just to rent them or have one little.
I
It's
know.
almost a little.
I think with these cities, it's almost, and I always, nobody asks me, I said, why isn't Chris doing the whole, it's kinda like the city starts this and they punt the football to you, then,
Yeah.
and I said,
Absolutely.
you're making it complicated for the business person. Why, we do have a short-term rental, if everybody's on the same page, go see the fire inspector, and you pay them, and, cause all you're doing is causing the cities more work by
So what do you think about the 175 for the city? What is that?
You'd have to talk to Cindy, she's the one, because the township, they're the ones that, we had this plan going, and then the township we
We asked you to, we asked to have the same
basically
fee
we
structure.
get
We
along
asked
with
you to.
everybody, and
That was-
but Cindy came up with, I don't know how much time that Cindy from the city has tied to what she actually does. I know she sends out letters to everybody, but you could send out,
A lot of letters for
Yeah,
$175.
Catch that we've even ran into a couple times in the last few weeks is it should go through zoning first, because there's quite a few places where it's zoning districts where you can't rent an accessory dwelling. And that's, and even
Yeah,
some of them
I don't
I've
know,
caught,
Cindy
and
need to talk.
in me asking questions about something I found on the fire inspection is how we found some of them that had actually slipped through the city to me, and then got bounced back and ended up being denied their permit because of where the house was actually located. So that would be the thing, I don't know the zoning districts or
Yeah.
ordinances, and wouldn't really want to get involved in that truthfully, because it's way above my understanding of, especially since none of them are the
Tony
same.
can get involved.
I guess who would be in charge of studying that at, like, the
Our
township?
cities just had, a few months ago, a bunch of votes on our fees, and there was a lot of discussion on some of those, and a couple we did lower, and a couple we raised. So why wouldn't each of us go back to our own municipality and discuss this, and really ask for the facts? How much time do you really spend? Is this really
Right.
fair? And see if
Does
there's
it
a
matter
match.
the
decide
size
on-
of the
did you
house? I mean,
change
if
your-
you're doing a house in Pepperbrook or one on the lake
That's
shore,
the
all
other thing.
organic, I mean, is there ever a
Did you
sliding
change
fee?
your-
Well, that's what I
This
said
one, I
when it
don't
comes
remember
to,
now. The
why is
I'd
it
have
one
to-
set
I mean,
number?
really.
The only thing
I'd
we
have to ask the
discussed,
history, but.
we felt like, say you take a project that's got, like, say, a complex where there's individual condos, say on Lake Street, okay, there's all these condos there, and you go in and you do them. I don't think it's fair to charge $75 for each one when you can bang out 3 in an hour. I have no problem with lowering the fees, but the city is, charging the same amount of money.
I think you gotta bang, you gotta get $1 for every bang. Yeah.
Because you got some houses that are 8 or 9 bedrooms, have
Yeah,
occupancies
I mean-
of higher, but it's not typical. In township, you run into bigger houses.
Well, the other thing too is the initial inspection takes a hell of a lot more
Mhm.
time than the 3-year renewal.
Not
Not true.
necessarily.
No.
Mm-mm.
No,
No, most people actually screw up more on the 3-year renewal than
Yep.
they do on the initial
Jesus.
inspection.
Do they?
Because they don't read the checklist again and make sure the extinguishers have been tagged by a fire protection contractor, that the smoke and CO alarms have either been stolen or not working. Yeah, the 3-year
It's-
renewals are actually probably even more.
when we started this, it was gonna be every year.
Wow.
Every year we were gonna do it because we knew what's gonna happen is no one's gonna maintain anything. So you go in on a 3-year, it's like, what happened?
Mhm.
I think we need to have our minds wrapped around not trying to do the rental people a favor. And I think, as it stands now, even the way you talk about, well, if it's 75, I shouldn't get, no, forget about it. It's 150, 150, 150, that's the deal, and some gonna win, some gonna lose, and that's government. I mean, try and deal with the license plate people or whatever. I think we should take a look administratively at what level we can reasonably substantiate as reasonable. For the fire department, forget about the cities and the township, for the fire department, whatever that number is. And I think it's, honestly, I don't think it's 125, I think it's a bigger number, but whatever the number is. And then you go to the cities and the townships and say, the fire department and the fire board have established this is the cost that they're gonna charge. Boom, end of story, that's what we're gonna charge. You guys wanna charge 1,000, go right ahead, or you wanna charge nothing, whatever you wanna do, that's your business.
It's easier if it's the same thing, but
Well, it doesn't have to be the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
There's 3 different, I mean, I could see.
My taxes are different than your taxes.
Absolutely,
Oh, yeah,
that's
no.
exactly right. Exactly right, they should decide.
But it's true, I mean, every place you go
Absolutely.
is a little different, so.
I would advocate for the ease of keeping the fees the same through the 3, just for the simplicity of billing. Because it's hard enough as it is to remember that we're only charging $50 now for a reinspection versus 75 for a new one.
No.
And it was a pain before where, okay, am I in Saugatuck today, or am I in the township right now, or am I in Douglas? And that logistically gets confusing, trying to figure out, now their ordinances are very similar as well as their fees, that it's definitely a lot easier to send Peter a list of addresses that I just inspected for the day and say, hey, bill $75 to each one of these. Versus, well, this house was bigger, so now this one's a $100 fee, this house is smaller, so this one's only, that would be,
Or
I
you
think you
could-
spend more time trying to figure that out than it's worth.
You could keep it simple on your end and just say, this is what our fee is, whatever the
Yeah.
two cities or the township.
Right.
You know, you either raise your rates, or we're taking more of the pie,
Yeah,
and if you don't, or the cities are gonna end up subsidizing if they refuse to raise their rates, but this is what the fire department's gonna charge back to the three different entities
right.
to do these.
Because right now, given different numbers from the three different jurisdictions, they're somebody's benefiting disproportionately, and somebody's getting screwed disproportionately. So, and we can't control that. We have no idea what, the township wants, or what Saugatuck needs, or Cindy Osmond wants, or whatever. We don't know, but what we do know is the fire department.
What it costs us.
Just
Yeah, our
send
cost.
them notice, this is the new
Yeah,
rate,
boom.
July 1st.
I think what we really need to do is have you guys look, come up with something that's in concrete, and don't be shy, and
But, and then
come up
put
with
up
a
the
number.
board meeting, and then you guys
At the
can
next
discuss
board
it.
meeting,
How's that?
say, this is the number,
Yeah.
okay, let's go back to the municipalities and tell them that's what it is.
We'll add it to the board agenda.
And based on the current number of rentals we have, if you added $50 to the current fee, you generate an additional roughly $9,800 a year. And if you added a $75 fee to the existing 75, you generate roughly $15,000. Just to give you ballpark numbers of what you'd add to the budget each year by increasing the rental fee.
15,000 could really help out
Right.
with,
It may not be enough versus what you were talking about for .2 mils, but just to give you a ballpark of what it would be.
Like South Haven added a full-time guy just to do the rentals. I think we have 3 times as many rentals as South
We do.
Haven.
I would
They
also
get the
wonder
program off.
if you don't want to build something in there that's a fail-safe for North Shore kind of situations, where it becomes, where it starts to consume your body, because you're, that, where the fee is, 5% of what it ought to be, or less, because it's,
After the third try, it just goes to an hourly rate of, or something.
well, I'd be much more penal than that. I mean, I'd hammer. Because inevitably, the people you're talking about, and North Shore being potentially a good example or not, I don't know, but they're deep pockets to begin with. So, they're getting over from day one, basically. So I don't know how you legislate that, but it would sure be nice to not have,
Well,
in
my-
the taxpayer's mind, we're charging North Shore the same as we're charging Ma and Pa with their damn fire pit.
Yeah. My feeling is they're their own worst enemies out there. They have to fight about things. Why don't you just do what you're supposed to do and be done with it?
That's what I've wondered.
I mean, how many times have we gone through this, and appeals boards and all that stuff? Just do
We're
what
hoping to
you're
get through that.
supposed
We
to.
had a lot of good progress, I don't want to get sidetracked, but we felt we had a good progress on submitting a plan review for the appeals one, that one on 135th Street, Scott Boscroft's project. We finally, and I worked on that Friday and Saturday, we finally sent stuff, Chris and I stayed late one night and got it sent out about 20 to 7 to them, and feel the ball's in their court now. North Shores is an entirely separate situation. We can talk about that in comments if you want, but we're trying. I even went to the township meeting on my own time to convince the township, let's move this project forward. Here's what we can do, here's what we can't do at 135th Avenue. And boy, they said, we approve this. We will pay the upgrade.
For the 12.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Well, should've been
And Dana
done.
Bird was there, the engineer, and we finally got some closure on we could finally get the plan review done from 6 weeks. And we're right back to where we started back in July. Put the water main in. So you have no idea how much time when we were just like, praise Jesus, let's get this thing done.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, we always were gonna come back.
Yeah, I mean.
It's a simple deal,
Ridiculous.
but they put 12-inch on there and it worked and
And
we
here
felt
we go.
good.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we need.
Yeah.
All these delays cost them money.
Yeah.
Right, I don't it doesn't compute.
Yeah,
It just
doesn't make
doesn't
any
make sense to
sense.
me. Just do it and.
So I guess, Greg, we need to get, because we have to have some kind of a budget to bring back to the board the meeting here in 2 weeks, and then we get approved.
So-
I guess we're back to the original
I'm
question.
asking for 2 tenths, because I wanna I wanna add another person to try to split up some of this workload, maybe shift somebody later on during the day, like a second shift or a third shift. But a person, Brent's being replaced, we all know that. I gotta keep that part-time position in, but you're adding a position in because of the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week thing and the workload that we have. I feel that additional position for sick time and
Vacation time?
vacation and overtime, we gotta have another person to make this work, or we're gonna be burning people out. And I figured for 2/10 of a mil, 130,000 would allow me to get that extra person and provide that paid-on-call stipend. And that's what we would do now, rather than, let's go up 1 mil, and I go to 24-hour shifts, period. But I can't do 24-hour shifts with 6 people. I
So,
can't do it.
I'm sorry if I
Don't-
asked
don't.
a stupid question, but
No.
when you do the mill, is it us going to our board or us
Yes.
getting something on a vote or? I
No.
mean,
No,
It's
well-
us
well,
going to our board, right?
I've done this before a few times. We go to the board, propose a .2 increase.
Okay.
And they vote on it.
Okay.
Now, all 3 have to be,
All 3 have to pass it.
all 3 have to pass.
But it
Okay.
just goes to the council. Or
It
the
doesn't
board.
go into the city, or
Okay,
you
so
don't
that's
have
all
a
mean
week,
any of
no.
it.
And it
It's
doesn't
just
go
the
up to a
council.
vote.
So I'll be, or you'll be?
Yes, you'll be.
I'll be, okay.
Well, I will go, you and I can make the presentation.
Okay.
But you're gonna be voting on it.
And Greg can help.
Well, that was what I
Okay,
was
so
gonna
you'll
ask
help?
you. What would be nice for Kathy and Aaron, I don't know who will do this, and Jane will do, I'm sure, the city, correct?
Okay, yeah.
Aaron? But to have it laid out on one piece of paper to hand each council member, or whatever you wanna call them, and explain what the .2 is gonna go to.
Right.
In a very simple format, not fluff and
Yeah.
it's, this is what, .2 will increase, generate $130,000, and this is what we plan on spending that $130,000 on. So it's not like, well, we're gonna spend 100 of it and put 30 in the bank account for, you know, a shiny new truck. This is
Great advice.
needed, and this is what it's for.
This
And-
makes sense.
And I don't think you'll have push on that volunteer stipend. I do not think nobody's gonna stand up and push back against that. You're taking up people's 12-hour shift to say you gotta, stay at home, you can't go to the bar, you can't go to Grand Rapids, the movies, or if you're saying for that $50, I'm gonna stay home, and
I honestly believe people will support that, I
Yeah.
really do.
I do too, but it's like, you know,
You
the
can't.
last time we had to do, I went through it, they wanted to know every person's salary here. And they were nitpicking, but
Oh, was
remember that group.
Our board?
That was your board.
And
Now we got a new board.
I really
The
pissed,
people are just
I
having an
really-
issue, because school mill, this mill, the library, I mean,
Yeah.
people
Have
are
we
having
rolled
some
it?
issues.
Have we-
Intermediate school.
It might
We'll
not
roll
be
back.
as easy to sell as you
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
Well,
you could be
then
right.
there might be a county Headley rollback.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this,
And I think when you present it, what helped, Eric and I did this years ago, what really helped was, because all this is kind of a lot of layers to understand. What is it gonna cost me? Well, if you got a 400 grand house, $40 in it. All right, now, okay, I can understand that. So is it worth another $40 to you or not? That's what we're talking about.
yeah, for safety. And
we're not gonna talk about cups of coffee. We're just gonna tell you it's gonna cost you $40 more a year. I mean, or whatever. Or we'll give you a formula to figure out what it'll cost for your house. I mean,
Right.
So basically, a layout with one page where the 2 mills .2 of a mil is going to.
I think
Okay,
that's just.
for the paid on call, an additional staff member. We, as everyone remembers, we can go up to 10 mills
Yeah, without.
without voter approval.
So we just do this, we
Well,
approve
but-
it, and then it's just on their next tax
We need the
bill and-
support of the councils.
Yeah, okay.
But maybe on that same thing about explaining how the paid on call are paid.
Right.
You know,
Right.
That just a little blurb of they are on call.
You needed how many people are on a 12-hour shift and, yeah,
Just some-
some one page or.
Very simple, I mean,
Yeah.
keep it simple.
So
Or
we're
for-
doing this on our next agenda, do we have to request that, and then we'll have all the information and present it then, is that the
We've got to be
timeline
able
we're
to
looking
present
at?
this in June.
Yeah, for the township, you guys only meet once a month, so it needs to be on your agenda,
Coming-
basically the 2020 fire budget.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, just want to draw some comparisons. All the municipalities, township doesn't have a DPW. However, Douglas and Sauger do. And I talked to Bill LaFever, I talked to Scott Herbert. When they come back after their 40 hours, they get time and a half. We don't. You pay them, you pay the police time and a half, Douglas Police, on holidays are 2.5 times hourly rate. We don't get anything like that. So, and if you look at the amount of staffing, there's like 5 people in DPW in Salt Lake City, 3 in the office, then maybe 1.5, well, half of one of, so I don't feel the 6 staffing levels is out of line. Matter of fact, it's just barely minimum.
We've been that high before.
Right. So I look at this going, we have no problem paying everyone else, but you don't pay the fire department. I've asked Peter, and he's always great with, why don't we have an overtime line item here? We'll take it out of operational wages. We've never paid our people a time and a half. And after 53 hours, they are entitled to overtime, and they're gonna get overtime. I just changed John's schedule. John is no longer allowed to work more than 4 days in a row.
And he's on 4/10 now.
He's on 4/10s.
Five.
Nobody's working 5 days a week but me. You are off.
Do I have it somewhere, but the previous year's millages over the past 10 years,
That would be helpful to have on the sheet. It's been 4 years
Yeah.
since this and da-da.
We have a history of millage things.
I have it at home in my file.
Yeah.
We have it.
Yeah,
Because
but
I know I'll
it's
get
been
grilled
above,
on that.
it's been way above
Was one-
2.2.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
No, I
No, I don't
think the
think it was
highest was
above
like
2.
1.8.
I remember 1.8.
I do remember 1.8.
Yeah.
And then we lowered it to 1.4 or something.
Remember that?
We were at
What
1.1
mistake we-
when I came on board.
We lowered it, it
1.1.
got up and then,
That's how we ended up in trouble with the capital.
And we have been adding to the capital improvements. This is what, the 3rd year we've added unscheduled 50 grand to add to that.
In 3 years, we got a truck due.
Yeah.
We're
yeah, I was
putting-
gonna say, that's not.
It's something, it's been.
It looks nice in your bank account, but something's gonna come up.
Yeah, it'll be gone in a blink.
Yes. These shiny
Okay.
red trucks are
So,
expensive.
I guess we're gonna go for 2.2, and we're gonna look at seasonal rentals. I don't think $15,000 is gonna make a huge difference in our lives around here, so that'll be just money that we get, we still need the 2.2.
I agree. I mean, it's just additional,
When I came in today, I was thinking we needed 2.3, so possibly if we do up the seasonal rentals and go for 2.2, I think that's probably,
Good point.
would you say every .1 is 65,000?
Correct.
So 2.3 would be an increase of 195 to the budget?
but you know, you gotta keep track of that capital improvement plan. And we've got some big capital improvements coming up, so instead of just making it, I think I always think you need a little bit of slop in your budget, but that's just me talking. So 2.2 is what we're gonna go for, correct? And figure out all of the paperwork based on that.
That's what I would suggest, on top of all the other millages we're.
Can I ask, maybe maybe related, maybe unrelated question, you'll know at least part of where this comes from. In the cost of doing business and all the rest of it. What's the cost of the marine operation?
Funny you should ask.
What marine?
Oh.
The fireboat.
Oh, the fireboat?
Staff and where, and the reason I ask is because Holland doesn't have a fireboat, do they?
They have, Holland has a fireboat, yes, has a fireboat. Matter of fact, we gave them one of our
South
fire
Haven
pumps.
doesn't have a fireboat.
Yes.
Yeah, they have two, both of them have two.
South Haven has an 18-foot boat. It was $78,000 in 1998.
I'm just wondering if, that's a cost item that I just wonder about. I just wonder whether,
I don't know, you know, it's on that sheet right
Yeah,
there.
now you join Jane, because she's always thought about that.
we have not, we've not talked about
Scott and
that.
I are on the other side. For what we got for that
You
boat,
convinced me, you
I know.
convinced me.
You convinced-
I've been convinced.
for what we got that boat for?
Well, it's not so much just the boat, it's the
Well,
time commitment and the training
Oh, we
commitment.
don't have, you know, there's a line item just called boat maintenance, you know, on.
That's right here.
Yeah, and it's,
I'm not looking, I want the, I would be interested as a financial matter, when you're talking mills and all the rest of it, is that's a discrete cost center for this operation.
yeah.
It's just like you said, if somebody said, whatever, assuming this is not the case, but assuming you had that ladder truck sitting down there and we had no building that was more than a story and a half, you go, wait a minute, you know, can we reallocate and
Do something.
and cut out something that has a low need or a low use?
That's a horrible analogy of how much water we have around here. I know what you're saying.
But, you know, we haven't kept track, you know, that boat line item it says boat maintenance, that's the cost, but we don't have anywhere the hour, you know, that Chris, or who, we don't have we've never tracked the man hours that are dedicated to that boat, the inspections, the maintenance thing on it, just the cost of the material or outside contract labor.
I'm on the other side as well, in terms of use. I mean, is it truly needed?
Well, here's a bunch of questions I answered today for a gentleman.
For a gentleman?
Well, I guess,
And I'm sorry. If you want to go about use, then we need to get rid of the aerial truck, because we've only used it on one fire since we got it, so it's useless, right? But something catches on fire when you need it, then,
It's an insurance
That's what I
policy.
was gonna say. It
haven't
doesn't
had
really
a
matter.
claim on my
Yeah.
insurance forever.
Yeah.
Because my confusion is this board decided to pay $90,000 and put a fire pump in that boat for a reason.
right.
That boat cost the taxpayers $2,500. He paid $2,100 to ship it. It's surveyed at $400,000, okay? It's a 1976. You've got a very robust boat at minimal cost. We spent 20 grand on it last year, fixing the decks and the cosmetics and the rotted roof. It's a 1976 boat. It doesn't owe you anything. Also, I want to add that you had a $4,000 donation for that boat when it was shipped in. You didn't have a whole lot of cost on that boat. So we have 3 boats, one for upriver, one for the lake, one to augment Douglas City, Saginaw City. You use 2 aerials on the water system on Coral Gables, you will not have a water supply. So hopefully, and you can cancel Venetian on 4th of July, you get rid of that fireboat. Because you're gonna have no protection on the water with a 400-gallon pump, where that boat does about 8 knots in a little boat. So, there's a lot of value. He spends 2 hours on Friday, and I've heard all sorts of attacks on this fireboat. This department has had a fireboat before I was even around. 1998, they had a fireboat. They had a River Queen that sunk to the bottom. John Block wisely bought this surplus boat that doesn't owe you a whole lot. And we've made improvements and capital improvements on that. And the big one was, we put a fire pump on it to augment that. You're a waterfront community with 1,000 boat slips just in Kalamazoo Lake, not even talking about upstream. The big fireboat can't go upstream, it can't make it. So you have a lot of exposures where that fireboat could help from yacht service on down. So I see real value into it, and an expensive thing. If you use that analogy, I haven't used 98% of the hydrants in Salt Lake City, then you need to get rid of them. If you're gonna use that, Stacy, you ever had a fire in your house?
In my house?
Right.
No.
Get rid of the smoke alarms.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and your
Yeah.
insurance.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Need it.
Right.
So if you're gonna be a waterfront community, what we saw was a great investment. South Haven, because I was asked, she was on a speakerphone, with the fire deputy chief. They spent $78,000 in 1998 on their 18-foot boat.
And they're jealous of our boat because it can do so.
And you know, what did they say? It wasn't big enough. I don't know how we would rescue the person that was trapped in the rocks without that fireboat. And let me ask you this, where's the sheriff's boat right now? I know.
Yeah,
It's in Allegan.
I talked to him today too. Yeah, it's an.
So go ahead and get rid of the
Is this a
fireboat.
local person?
And you've been
Yeah.
making one big mistake, because we have a couple of people who don't think. Dan, your questions are, this isn't, your questions, I understand that. Jane.
Yeah, you're not the only one, I get it too all the
Jane has
time.
hammered me, since I came out of the department, I had a directive to get rid of the fireboat. Let's talk about that. I got 50 years on the water, my son just hired a diesel mechanic for $160 an hour for his boat, and we're talking about what we have here. Go ahead and sell it, and take the $400,000 and do something with it. You'd be making the biggest mistake this board ever made.
And because it has that new pump on it that we voted.
Approved.
To put on it.
Now you're second guessing what the board did.
Now you have another vehicle to get water to a fire in downtown Saugatuck or Douglas.
Right.
It can be used in Douglas as well, for a fire that could be consuming, if there's a good wind and the Coral Gables catches on fire, the whole town's gonna be gone.
Where was, you understand the Coast Guard isn't here during the week?
Yeah.
Where was the county, how did we move the girl who broke her neck at the old harbor? The county had to go, they couldn't put her in a boat. They had to go get her, sit her across the boat, transferred to us, because they can't treat. So there's a lot of value in that boat, not a lot of investment. Who was deployed to look for the dead body in Saugatuck? Where was the county? You know why? It was so cold they couldn't endure anymore, and they were up to their overtime. We got called in. I spent 2 days of my own time looking for that body in that boat. I don't know how we're gonna do it any other way. I looked at replacing our 18-foot boat, I need $75,000. So what you have in that boat is great. Yep, the engines are old, the drive engines are old, but it's what I have. And I had to fix the rot on the superstructure. Between doing the decks and the superstructure, we spent $15,000 on that.
That was all last year, so.
That was last year. So, you know, there's another side of the story on the fireboat, and I don't know, we've had a fireboat for the what-ifs. And if we're gonna start going on this, then I'm the one who asked for the analysis on the aerial, and the aerial is hard to get into single-family dwellings. This vessel was to augment the water supply for downtown Saugatuck City and Douglas and the marinas. But if you add up the boat slips, how are we supposed to fight this stuff? We can't get out to it from the land. And if hopefully these fires, if they do occur, will occur during the summer when the boat is available.
And they're more likely to occur in the summer. But
I had one developer that thought that was his private boat, that wanted it stored at his development, and that's the fire pump. And I said, it's not your private, that belongs to the fire district. So, I know what boats cost, and I know what and this was decided upon before I even joined the fire department. This was decided because we're a waterfront community. And unfortunately, our River Queen sank to the bottom.
So today, to answer this two-page email that I got from this gentleman, I spent the morning on the phone with South Haven. I talked to Todd Wagner, who's in charge of the Marine Division from the county. He told me that the Marine Patrol will be out, they'll try to be out on weekends, and they have no schedule. They just take that boat out when they have somebody available to take it out. So that's what you have from the sheriff. So if you think the sheriff's gonna take care of you out there, he's not. And he can't do anything medical, and he can't do anything, he can't firefight. So, you know?
That's why, one reason we decided to invest in the fire pump, because we don't have Howland with their fireboat. The sheriff has a pump like we do in our fireboat. He has that over there, but the Howland doesn't come down here.
But I want you to know, I did this because I'm a city council member, and this came to me as a city council member, not as the fire board chair. So, and I put a disclosure at the end of it that I said, I have answered your questions to the best of my knowledge as chair of the fire board. I speak only for myself and not the fire board. To clarify any information, I would suggest you contact Chief Greg Janik or the heads of any other agency from which you would like information. So, and I referred him to the 911 board about dispatch, and I referred to Todd Wagner about taking care of overlapping calls, which that's pretty much.
So we have
Did you send an
15,000.
email to him?
No.
So we have $15,000 in our budget. But keep in mind that $5,000 of that is for putting the boat inside.
Storage.
Is haul, store, and launch and spring. It was great this year because we were able to do the bottom one. It was a needed storage. And we were in the water by April 10th, and contracts start April 15th. Like I said, if there was a water situation, PB1 couldn't be even deployed because it's in the barn in Allegan. So when the Coast Guard notified us, we kind of ramped up things on having the boat more available. So, and Bernardy goes once a week on Fridays is when Brent did the boat. Usually he's on 2191 for an hour and 2192, which is on a boat lift next to it for an hour. So it's about 2 hours a week. And then there's a third boat, which is fast deployment, a small boat for ice rescue, that sort of deployment on a trailer. We can launch that from the beach type thing.
Now, aren't you glad you did?
No, I am glad, I'm very glad. I think it also bears on the discussion earlier when you're talking to councils or whatever, particularly the part about the lack of coverage from the sheriff related to the water, that's part of what they're getting for their money. And I think that's been something you brought up before in terms of educating the jurisdictions on what they get from this department.
And we talk about working together, you and I, collaboration, consolidation. What boat do you think the dive team used training here? That boat, 2191. We had them out all day, it was all filmed. And we had 10 or 12 people on that boat, 2 fire and the rest all county. And they were training under the water. And it's our boat, they asked, because we have that facility. You know, so it's about, they have this, we have that. You know. I did try to buy that one middle boat that I'm trying to replace. I wanted to reach out and buy one together with the county, but Sergeant Wagner isn't even receptive to that. He wants his own. So all that kind of went by the wayside. But I really feel that taxpayers have a great value. And I heard it too. I heard it from Mr. Dewey. I heard it from everyone. And I for which John, it was one of the best things John Block did. was get us in for a 25, my dinghy was $6,000. Come on!
As great as John did with that boat, he did horrible with these chairs.
Every time.
Let me get them for $2 a piece or something like that. It was ridiculous.
I think he paid somebody $2 a piece.
I think that's just one of the things that,
John was a pack rat.
Well, he asked me about overlapping services, and I said that,
I think also people think the Coast Guard's just out there patrolling around.
Where was the Coast Guard when you had a guy under the water? They come on a fuel leak, they don't come on a recovery.
The only time you see the Coast Guard is when they're flying that helicopter
Yeah.
at $1,000
Yeah.
a minute,
Yeah.
up and down the shore.
Right.
You know, they had, you talked about that, they flew up from Traverse City just to Lake Erie here 2 months ago to get these off the ice.
Ice.
And they said those choppers move about 170 miles an hour once they get airborne. And they
We-
went from Traverse City to
Or
Lake
Milwaukee,
Erie.
Traverse or Milwaukee, we have to get a helicopter front.
And a boat's coming out of Grand Haven most of the time, so.
he asked if there was an
Or-
overlap of sheriff and marine patrol, and I said, I'm not sure what you mean by overlap. I would call it collaboration of resources. I would suggest you give Todd Wagner a call to discuss overlapping resources. They don't overlap,
Well, the point
They
you made is
complement each other.
They do different things.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And they complement each other.
If we're out on the boat, we're not pulling over people for drunk boating.
Yeah.
They educate, they're great at educating. We had a boat fire upriver in our middle, that 2192 is slow. They went there, because they can get there faster. They went to size up the scene, put the boat in a breast tow, and were ready to cast it off. We got there with our fireboat, the smaller one. Turned out to be an overheated engine with a hose that was melting. They had a better ability with twin engine to tow that boat than we did in the deep harbor. It was a great collaborative effort. They do a great job.
That big boat won't go under the Blue Star, will it?
Right now it might.
Well, we take the radar, man.
No.
No, that's in the
It's
water
up,
now.
yeah.
Oh, under the bridge, I
Under
mean.
the bridge.
No, And that's a semi-displacement
I-
hull.
I
It
thought you
doesn't
meant
get
the
on
water
a plane.
level.
Right, it's gonna be like
So
Bud Beatty.
you have a lake like 3 feet.
He has to put that mast down. I don't know if he's gonna be able to
Gonna
get
put
under there
the
this
cabin
year.
off this year.
Cause
So
it's
he-
high as ever.
So he asked me how many structure fires that we fought with it, or how many fires we fought with the boat. And since 2015, which is when we first started keeping stats, we haven't put out any structure fires, and we put out 4 boat fires. So, there's 4 boats that didn't burn up, I don't know. We probably have a better record with the boat than we have with the aerial, so, I don't know.
Yeah, ask him how many insurance claims he had on his house. He might well quit paying that insurance bill, right?
Yeah, really. And his house is a perfect house to fight with the aerial, because it's long and it's tall, and he has a renter upstairs, so he just never knows what they're gonna do down there. So, I rest my case.
Now, Peter, as far as his budget, if Greg puts this one thing together, we need to get this approved by,
Well, we need, all 3 units need to approve it, so the township thing, they meet, the first Wednesday of the month, so our regular board meeting, in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So if we come back with the budget, you guys basically put it on the agenda, we submit it, that we need to go to Douglas and Saugatuck, which, I don't know, without looking at a calendar, they could approve it by the end of May, and then the township approves it, and then we just approve it our regular.
but it has to
meeting.
be approved by the 1st of July,
Yes, by June 30th.
June 30th. So
Yeah,
that would
that'd
be
be
the
June
June
3rd, yeah.
meeting.
Mhm.
That we have-
No. We have to approve it here at our June meeting.
Okay,
We have
on
to-
first.
Okay,
And
all right,
then we
then,
go-
okay,
yeah, no,
yes.
you-
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute.
Well,
Okay, yes. We have to approve the budget, we have to have a budget hearing and approve the budget before July 1, is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah, but
So we have to have that at our, you're right, we have to have
That'd be
that
the
at our.
June meeting, and then
our June
Yeah,
meeting.
But this would have to be at the township meeting, June 5, because they
Correct,
meet only
correct.
on the.
So what we need to do is get a budget, this is a draft, get it finalized, and now.
By the May 20
For the
meeting.
base, right.
May 20.
And that,
Yes.
and what we ran into last year is we got turned down at their May meeting, and they had to pass it at their June meeting.
Who
So,
was?
yeah, there's no slot in this if you take it to
Well,
your
they
June
they held a
meeting.
special meeting the second time, the township.
No, I don't think they did.
Yeah, they did, because I remember with Eric and I went there and they voted it down. They got into arguing over what we were paying, they wanted to know what everybody's salary was. and how
Oh, I
much the light
remember
bill.
that one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I pissed them off when I told them how much each one of them made.
Yeah.
Per hour.
That's a
They didn't like that.
Yeah, they didn't want anybody to know that.
They wanna know what everyone else here makes, and they want,
Well, I
when I
think
point out.
45 is
I don't
actually
see that.
low. I would think it'd be higher.
You could walk into Cal Lake
Yeah.
with nothing but a CDL and make $49,600.
I know, I
The
think it's
Cal Lake
kind of
and
low.
Reed.
So
Yeah.
so Peter, do you think the budget will be ready to vote on May
They
20?
do.
For us, yeah, well, yeah, we can have that, we can
Okay.
get it. we can put-
Fire board meeting, right, May
Yeah,
meeting?
May the 20th.
I mean, the only other thing we could do if we needed to make
Well,
adjustments is to have an emergency June 3 meeting before
So we
the
can,
June 5
we'll have
meeting.
something
I'm sure we
together
can have
for the
that
20th.
Done the
together.
20th?
And see, Douglas now, see, that's their, so, and then Saugatuck could potentially, oh, they have a meeting on the 28th, so we could have it then ready, to put on the agenda for City of Saugatuck, and then, what, it's the first
Yeah,
Monday?
First Monday. in
So that would be June 3rd, and their next, and then the township on the 5th, so we would have it all wrapped up by the 6th, and we just approve it and have our public hearing in our regular June board
June
meeting.
17 meeting.
Right.
Okay.
And you're gonna come to our meeting to present it too, or not?
I can present, I'm not worried, but.
You're not worried?
Often,
I mean, we
You
can
and
do it.
I.
Okay, all right.
I mean-
And if we get the information, I'll just.
Greg's good if there's any questions
Park
that
the
you
big
don't
truck
know.
out front.
And you could, we'll have the stuff prepared to give to you after our board meeting on the 20th, and you
Yeah.
can
Okay.
talk to your board
All right.
I'll
members,
make
and
a
if they
point
got
of being
questions.
there on June.
I'm
We
always
can
a little
meet-
cautious at
We
first.
can meet with them individually.
New stuff.
Good one, Peter.
Oh,
We'll have to get on the June 5 agenda for that.
Okay. It's a lot more pleasant
Forgive me
meeting
for
in the
switching
township
back
too.
on
No yelling.
on the inspection fee thing.
Yeah.
Based on what Chris said about re-inspections, that should be one fee. Make that, there's no a re-inspection fee is the same as an inspection fee. There's a fee, boom, that's what it is.
Yeah. I would just, if you guys
Just
talk to
make things-
different units and just say, and just draft June or July 1,
Mhm.
if it needs to be, it's $125, but if you guys wanna charge them,
Another
we're gonna
$120.
bill the local units each $125,
Put it in
regular
the June
inspection
5
or
meeting, I'm not
re-inspection.
texting anyone. The board meeting.
No,
I'll monitor it, don't worry.
you're not, you're not,
Sorry to
we
come.
probably
I
don't
know.
need, we probably don't need that rule anymore, so,
Oh, what, this fall?
that you can't text during the meeting. So,
It's common sense. What time's your meetings?
6.
Okay.
okay, so, any public comment?
Yeah. I just wanted to apologize for the confusion with the Ram truck and the overage. I can assure you that mistake won't happen again, and thank you for helping us make it better. And then just for budgeting and stuff, most fire departments protect their communities with just a simple ladder truck and an engine or 2 engines. But most also don't have, 30 square miles of non-hydrogen area, 7 miles of Lake Michigan shoreline, 1,000+ boat slips, and all the dune topography, that we are a unique community in many ways, both with the tourism industry as well as the unique challenges we have to protect. That, it's not just fighting fire like the city of Grand Rapids is. We have all these different things. Not only do we have to have the equipment to protect, but the training to go along with it. So just thank you for considering these differences in the budgeting process.
You're welcome. Okay, fire board comments. Kathy, you got anything?
Wait, these got, Eric,
Oh.
Eric, you tell us deep down how you feel about the water and boats and all that. You're from Denmark, which, herring and
Surrounded by water.
water and...
I always hated it.
And you still do.
Yeah,
our number one
I
summer.
do take a shower every now and then, but I do like seafood.
There you go.
You might be,
All right. Kathy, did you have any fireworks? And
Kathy, have you ever done one of the board,
Oh,
you've been here
yeah.
long enough, you've done budget to the,
Oh, yeah.
you've been here a few years. I lose track of who's
I've
been
been
here.
here 3 years.
I lose track of who's been around, you know?
it was interesting when I reached out to Bill about
quieter.
the staffing levels, you know, and I said, Bill, I can't make this work. And he goes, you can't. You can't make it work with 6 people. You can't do a 24-hour, you can't do that. So, well, I gotta take steps at a time, Bill. He understood, but Bill was.
So you talked to him already about all this?
I talked to him, I said, how do you do your overtime? How do you do that? Because we don't have that. And he said, well, we start out paying overtime, and then we say, all right, guys, we've used the budget. If we have a bad winter, we're gonna go to comp time. We want you at 1.5 hours per hour, you get comp time off it. Scott more or less said the same thing. And he said, what's in particular? I said, I'm trying to cover this department 24 hours a day with 6 people, and he says, you can't do it. And that's adding that person on. So, you know, Bill was, I guess what I was saying, Bill was very supportive, and he understood what we were going through.
I don't think we'll get huge pushback except from 1 or 2 council members I can think of. But, you know, that's the way it is. I'm not even sure about those.
If you can justify it, it
Yeah,
shouldn't be
I
hard.
don't have
Usually
any
it's,
problem with it.
well, I'm a salesman, so.
I say, you know, the other one that always reports in is Cal Lake, with, you know, Barry or whomever. And Cal Lake has millage, and they also have the ability to raise rates, and they do.
That's a big problem.
There's no rate raising here, this is the only
Yeah.
route.
Right.
Well, our inspection fees are going up.
They are not shy about
I
that.
need to talk about Cal Lake outside of this meeting, because, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, they,
It's just tough when you're dealing with, you know, they get a $500 a month stipend for being on call, for not even going. So, you know, $6,000 a year stipend, like, I can't compete with that, you know.
okay, let's not talk about.
Okay, sorry.
Eric, good. Dan?
Oh, man.
All right. Anybody, anything? Okay, we're adjourned.
Thank you.